Hi guys, in this video I'm going to show you the easiest ever way to propagate your Monstera. All you need is a Monstera cutting and a jar of water. We will also take a look at the differences between tip and middle cuttings, because after rooting you can expect them to grow quite differently. Let's get started. To take your cuttings, choose a Monstera that has aerial roots and give those a trim. By cutting these roots, you will encourage rooting through the plant's natural wound response. To take your cuttings, get yourself a very sharp blade, and if you're like me, someone to use the blade who is less likely to require stitches after this process. As I mentioned, I'm taking both a tip or terminal cutting and a cutting from the middle of the stem. As far as you can, try and make sure your cuttings have at least one trimmed aerial root, because this is where the new roots will grow from. Get a jar large enough to submerge the stem part of your cutting and fill it with normal tap water. You can then just pop your cuttings into this jar and leave it in a sunny spot. After about 2 months, this is what the cuttings look like. I changed the water about twice a week. I made these cuttings in the middle of winter, so it did take quite a while for the roots to start growing. So I suggest be patient with your cuttings and they should eventually reward you by growing a new root system. As you can see, all the new roots have grown from the trimmed aerial root, so be very careful not to damage that area. I'm really glad I used an example of a terminal and middle cutting because we can see the difference in how they will continue to grow from here. The terminal or tip cutting will grow a new leaf as it would have if it was still attached to the mother plant. The new leaf will develop from the axil of the youngest leaf. The non-terminal cutting will not be able to grow a new leaf from its current leaves. What it will do, and is doing, is creating a new plantlet from a node down here. This future leaf will then become the new plant where all future leaves will continue to grow from. From this you can see that you can expect to wait a bit longer to grow a new plant from the non-terminal cuttings because the cutting has to regenerate an entirely new plant, whereas the terminal cutting will continue to grow as it would have prior to propagation. In terms of repotting, I've decided to go for 2 different methods. I used a solid mixture in the first one. You can check out my video on repotting your Monstera where I discuss the ideal mixture for Monsteras. For the other cutting, I'm going to continue to grow it in water. My sister-in-law has a beautiful specimen in water and I wanted to follow her lead, so I got this little vase. This method will also let me keep an eye on how that new leaf develops, which I haven't seen before, so it'll be quite interesting to see it grow. If you do grow your Monstera in water, you will need to change the water regularly to prevent algae buildup and smelly water. Instead of removing your Monstera every time you change the water, rather empty the vase with the Monstera inside so you don't disturb the root system all the time. If you want to fertilize your Monstera, use a liquid fertilizer with every other water change or so. And that's how I propagated my Monstera. It really is beyond easy, and once the roots get growing, it's quite cool to see how they develop. I hope you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.